People still visit this park every day. They walk the same paths. They pass the same trees. They sit by the same lake. And most of them have no idea what happened there. Because something did happen. Something no one has ever been able to fully explain. And even now, people who know the story don't like to talk about it. Not in detail. Not for long. Sometimes, late at night, when conversations drift into strange topics, someone will bring it up. And when they do, the mood changes. The room becomes quieter, and people listen more carefully. Some say it's just an old case. Others say it's something much stranger. And a few people refuse to talk about it at all. They say it started with a man. Just an ordinary man. Someone who had been visiting that park for years. Same time, same path, same routine. Nothing ever changed. Until one morning, something did. And what he found that morning has never been fully explained. And some people say it was never meant to be explained. Some stories are meant to be told, but this one might not be. From what people say, the man had been coming to that park for a long time. No one remembers exactly when he started, but by then, he had already become part of the place. Every morning, just after sunrise, he would walk into the park carrying a small bag of food. He fed stray cats. That was all. That was his reason for being there. And the cats knew him. They recognized the sound of his footsteps. They would gather before he even reached the usual spot, waiting, watching. But that morning, they didn't come. Not one. Now, some people say that's the part that still feels the strangest. Because animals tend to notice things humans don't. They sense changes before anything becomes visible. And for some reason, on that day, they stayed away. The man noticed. Of course he did. But he didn't stop. He didn't turn around. He just kept walking. At least, at first. It started as something small. Not fear, not panic. Just discomfort. A quiet feeling that something wasn't right. The park felt different. Too quiet. No birds, no wind, no distant noise. Only his footsteps. Soft, slow, repeating. And somehow they sounded louder than usual. He slowed down. Not intentionally. His body just reacted. He looked around. Nothing seemed out of place. Everything looked normal, but the feeling didn't go away. And then he saw them. Plastic bags. At first they didn't seem important, just something someone might have left behind. But there were too many. And they weren't scattered. They were placed carefully, almost neatly, as if someone had arranged them on purpose. That was the moment he stopped. Completely. He looked around again. No one, no sound, no movement. And yet, something about it felt wrong. Not enough to run, but enough to hesitate. And once he noticed them, he couldn't stop looking. There are different stories about what happened next. Some say he opened the bag immediately. Others say he stood there for several minutes, just staring at it, like something inside him was warning him. That quiet hesitation, that instinctive resistance, the kind that tells you to walk away. But curiosity is a strange thing, and sometimes it wins. Slowly, he crouched down. His hand hovered above the plastic. He stopped, just for a moment. His fingers didn't move. His body didn't move. Even his breathing felt slower. Then he grabbed it and opened it. People say the smell came first. Not strong, not overwhelming, just wrong. Something metallic, something heavy. something that shouldn't have been there, something that didn't belong in a place like that. He leaned closer. Inside, there was another layer, plastic wrapped tightly around something, too tightly. That was when his fingers began to shake. He reached in, slowly, carefully, as if moving too fast would somehow make it worse. He touched it, soft, but firm, and not cold enough. He paused. His hand didn't move. For a brief moment, his mind refused to understand. It didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. And then, it did. Slowly, he pulled it out, and everything stopped. The sound, the air, even his breath. It wasn't trash. It wasn't an animal. It was human, a piece of a human body. And in that moment, he realized this was not an accident. Some say he screamed. Others say he didn't make a sound at all. But everyone agrees on one thing. That moment stayed with him. It didn't fade. It didn't blur. It stayed clear, sharp, burned into his memory. He ran, without thinking, without looking back, his breathing uneven, his thoughts scattered. He didn't know where he was going. He just needed to get away, away from what he had seen, away from what he now understood, until his body couldn't keep going. And when he stopped, he collapsed, his hands shaking, his chest tight, the image still there, clear, unmoving. He called the police, and from that moment on, everything changed. At first, even the police didn't fully understand, because things like this don't just happen. Not like that, not in a public place. But when they arrived, they saw the bags, and one by one, they opened them. And then they stopped, because now they understood. This wasn't just one discovery. It wasn't just a single body. It was many. More bags were found, then more, then even more. They weren't hidden. They weren't buried. They weren't concealed. They were placed across the park, near trees, along paths, even near the water, as if someone had walked through the park slowly, leaving them behind one by one. And when investigators examined them, they noticed something, a pattern. Every piece was almost the same size, around 20 centimeters, again and again and again. Too consistent to be random, too precise to be accidental. This part doesn't appear in official reports, but some officers later spoke about it, quietly, off the record. They said there was something strange about the scene. Not just disturbing, not just violent, but unnatural. One of them later said, it didn't feel like a crime scene. It felt like something had been completed, as if whatever happened there had already served its purpose, as though they had walked into something that had already finished long before they arrived. Another officer described it differently. He said the place felt heavy, still, as if the air itself had stopped moving. Not because of fear, not because of danger, but because something about it was not meant to be understood. That detail changed everything. Because this wasn't how someone hides a body. This wasn't panic. This wasn't chaos. This was controlled, deliberate, calculated, and that raised questions. Why this way? If the goal was to hide it, there were easier methods. If the goal was to move it, this didn't make sense. If the goal was to send a message, then what message was this? Nothing about it felt practical. Nothing about it felt necessary. And yet, everything about it felt intentional. Over time, stories began to spread. Some people believed it was organized crime, a warning, a message. But there was no sign, no symbol, no claim. Others believed something else, something more unsettling. They said the cuts were too precise, too consistent, too calm, like whoever did it wasn't rushed, wasn't afraid, wasn't trying to escape, but taking their time, repeating the same action, again and again and again. Some even said it felt less like violence and more like a process, or something closer to an obsession. There was one problem no one could solve. No one knew who the victim was. No name, no report. No one came forward. Days passed, then weeks, still nothing. And that led to another theory. What if no one was looking? In a city like Tokyo, it's possible to disappear, especially if you were never truly connected to anyone. Some say the victim was a foreigner, someone passing through, someone who could vanish without leaving a trace. And if that's true, then the case becomes even darker. There's a theory people don't like to talk about, not because it's impossible, but because it feels too real. What if this wasn't about hiding a body? What if this wasn't about sending a message? What if the act itself was the purpose, the cutting, the measuring, the repetition, reducing something human into something controlled, something predictable, something uniform? If that were true, then this wasn't just a crime. It was something else entirely. The investigation continued, but nothing changed. No suspect, no clear evidence, no answers. Eventually, the park reopened. People returned, walking the same paths, living the same routines, as if nothing had happened, but something had. And even if people didn't talk about it, they remembered. Even now, the case remains unsolved. No identity, no explanation, only fragments, only rumors, only stories, and one detail that never disappears. Every piece was almost exactly the same. The park is still there, quiet, peaceful, unchanged. But somewhere in that place, something happened that was never meant to be understood, and maybe it never will be. If this story left you wondering, the next one is waiting for you. Subscribe and stay with us.